Welcome to Twin City Tales Podcast, where we explore the stories that shape our community. I'm your host, Wyman Wong, owner and CEO of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric. Our exciting first podcast episode is about Joe Wiener's story, from Shakespearean actor to St. Paul Saints public address announcer, and now the operations manager here at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric. This is proof that the most interesting careers rarely follow a straight line. So settle in for an inspiring conversation about creativity, adaptability, and finding your unique path in the Twin Cities. Our journey starts now.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales Podcast.
We have Joe Wiener today, a St. Paul native who's lived more professional lives than most of us had hot dinners. Growing up in the heart of St. Paul, Joe discovered early on that life is less about following a straight path and more about embracing every wild, wonderful opportunity that came his way. His journey included the St. Paul Saints, where he wasn't just an usher or a stat man. Oh no, he was an usher-tainer with a style all his own. Not many people could say they made stat tracking an entertainment experience. Picture this: Joe announcing games from third base dugout, turning what could have been a standard job into a performance art piece. But wait, there's more. Joe's a classically trained Shakespearean actor who didn't just stop at local theater. He was picking up acting gigs all around the Twin Cities and even landed himself quite a few television commercials. That's right, from delivering Shakespearean most dramatic monologues to selling products on local TV. Joe's been there, done that, and probably got a t-shirt for it. Now, you might think transitioning from acting into baseball entertainment to operations at Twin City Heating and Electric would be a crazy leap. But for Joe, it's just another scene in life's grand production. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to meet hometown hero, my hero, who proves that life is one big, beautiful, unpredictable performance. Put your hands together for Joe Wiener. Thank you, Joe, for being on the show today. Let's start off with, how did you get into the acting business?
Into the theatrical arts? Well, I was, for some reason, I couldn't make the baseball team. I couldn't go out for baseball. And so I was sitting around after school one day, and a bunch of people came up and said, "We need men for this play." And I'm like, okay. So I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and jumped in and got some pretty good feedback and encouragement. And I just started doing that. That just became the thing that I did, doing theater. And I went to school for it at UW-Madison. So I majored in theater and drama at Madison. I graduated in 1998, and I moved back here and just started hitting the pavement, looking for work, theater work, commercial work. Did a couple of very, 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 very independent movies. How independent? Very independent. And then I got my first steady gig. I was taking classes at the Brave New Workshop, and I worked in their box office and their concessions and cleaning the theater, being an usher, to help support the classes. And so that was sort of my first real landing place, and started doing other theater. And eventually there was an audition notice for the St. Paul Saints. They were looking for people who liked baseball, were good with crowd work, had a background in improvisation. And I went and I auditioned, and that clicked. And so I was part of the first generation of usher-tainers, and that eventually evolved into being on the third base dugout and being the PA announcer, standing on the shoulders of giants, the people who were there before me. If you were had ever been to a Saints game, you would, it was a big event. It's a big entertainment coordinated event, and I was a big part of that for a couple of years. And when that time ended, I got back into theater. And, during all this time, I had all sorts of different odd jobs. I was combinating locks for padlocks, cutting the keys and putting the weights in the locks. I worked for Life Touch. As a photographer and recreational sports and preschool and doing things like that. I was going to high schools and talking about planning for success. I was a door-to-door salesman for a time. That was a job that did not suit me. And then eventually I saw a notice for part-time work at Twin City Heating and Air. Electric had not been added at that point. And I was looking for part-time work. The current workplace I was working with wouldn't quite fit around the family needs that I had schedule-wise. And so I filled an application. I texted you. We had met at the Saints, so we were friends. I texted you and said, hey, I just applied for that position at your company. You called me within minutes and said, I want you to come in for an interview. And I'm very grateful. I don't think I would have gotten the job if you had not been familiar with how I worked at the Saints. And not just familiar with how I worked, but you understood and you saw in me that there wasn't just getting out there and being fun and being goofy. There was a lot of work involved in preparation and organization and delivering on promises. And so I think because you saw that, you understood that who I was more than just what I had on that little scrap of resume paper. And you brought me on, and I started wearing many hats: marketing, networking, doing invoices, taking calls, scheduling, that kind of thing. And that eventually evolved into being the office manager and now the operations manager. So here we are.
Do you think a key to a lot of your success is just being flexible in different things? I feel like acting's a lot like that.
Yeah, acting's very, you do need to be very flexible in so many different ways. Sometimes you need to be very flexible with your schedule. You have to be flexible for what's being asked of you. You might come in with I've got a certain idea of how this should be done. And then you get there and everybody there is telling you, this is how we're going to do it. And you think, well, that's not what I was going to do. You've got to be able to slide in with what their vision is. So
that's really neat. I mean, part of it is being flexible, but also being resilient, because I'm sure acting that when you got into the acting gig at first, there's a lot of rejections. There's a lot of retries or recalls for auditions.
Yeah. Every actor's got to figure out how they handle that, or they're not going to last very long.
And we talked about the Saints a little bit earlier. I'm sure there was a lot of people that wanted to get in that position, and you auditioned for it, and you pretty much got it.
Yeah.
In the first gig. How was that experience?
The audition experience for it?
Yes.
It was interesting. Typically when you go into an audition, there's one or two people in the room, maybe three or four. And there was, I don't know if it was everybody wanted to get out of the office and go over there. It was pretty much what I understand now was almost the entire Saints staff where it was at that. So it was a crowded room. And so I went in there and I did my thing, and I was getting a lot of laughs, and the feedback was very positive right away. So I had a very good feeling about it. And sometimes you get good feedback at an audition and nothing comes of it. And that's just how it is. When you are an actor, you are always auditioning. And you have to know that even if you don't get it, you're not just auditioning for this one thing. You're auditioning for anything that's going to come into that casting agent or that director's vision for the future. So you want to leave a mark, even if it doesn't work out with this particular job. And I guess there's some life lessons in there, right? There are times where you just need to let people know that you're there, right? They don't have a problem with their furnace today. They got to know that we're here for when they do, so that they already think of us before they go to the search engine.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Yes, exactly. Doing the Usher Tainer thing, was that before when you were the stat man as an Usher Tainer? That was before your third base dugout public address announcer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I was an ushertainer only for 5 years before I became the PA announcer.
Only. It's a little time.
Yeah. And so there had been a couple of other announcers who were announcing during that time, but I started as, working the crowd, going up and down the stands, talking with people, leading stuff down on the field, whatever the events are, reading birthdays, things like that.
Yeah. But and then getting to the part of being able to do that position, that must have been a trying tryout type of thing too.
Yeah, there was that evolved over time. There was a system that was sort of falling in place, and would always get updated on how we would run things, and more and more I was not quite a floor director, but I was putting in the gaps and helping construct what each game's thing. And I was certainly not the only person, but I was one of a few people. And as we got, year after year, I think there was an idea that I had, not that I had the idea, there was an idea that I was the one who could, I knew that the energy that we wanted to bring to the stadium. And so we had a couple of auditions for announcers, and it made the most sense at that time for me to step in as the announcer.
And you
so
did
we did that for 5 years.
And you did a fantastic job. I just know
Thank you.
That was part of the experience that actually my son, Dan, that's behind the cameras here, he's the one that we were going to the games with, and we were really well entertained, and you did such a fantastic job. Actually, I think we have a clip, Dan. Can you pull up the one where he did has a commercial for Treasure Island Casino? That was during the time you were.
That would have been about 2007, 2008
Yeah.
or so. Yeah.
Yep. And I remember seeing it. Let's take a look at it, and let me get your reaction. You probably haven't seen it for a while.
I have not seen this one for a good minute.
Now I know what you're thinking. This madman just dumped a pile of dirt on my beautiful carpet. But with the amazing Electro-Suck 3000, that pile of dirt will soon be just a fade in memory. Observe. Treasure Island Resort and Casino.
That was a few years ago.
That was, yeah. That's I guess that's close to 20 years, not quite, but
Yeah. 15, 20 years ago.
sharing the screen with the very talented Janet Paoni, by the way.
How did you end up getting that gig?
I auditioned like every other schmuck.
Was it a lot of people for that one too?
Yeah, every time you go to an audition, there's usually a lot of people. You're definitely going to be up against, at best, 25 to 30 people, and usually more. They often don't know what they're looking for. So you go in and you do your spin on it, and maybe you inspire them, or maybe you don't. And that time it worked out for me.
So do you have any advice for anybody getting into that, or getting into because I think the Saints are a little harder to get into these days, but it's a matter of pushing.
It's it's also, whether or not you're the right fit for what that is. I would say for any actor, trust in yourself. I know that sounds so cheesy, but it's so easy to second guess everything that you're doing. And oftentimes I think either you've already got what they're looking for, or you don't. And so what you do with the time that you have in front of them, just trust what you're doing. And either you're what they're looking for, and great, you move forward, or you're not, and you just go on to the next one, and not be so locked into this one particular audition, because there's always the next one. Your job is to audition.
That makes sense. That's your job, to keep pushing for finding the opportunities. Like I said before, that's one of the things that I really admire about you. You take every opportunity and you just maximize it. And that's what's made you great here with our company too. I love how you really push that. There's also a creativity side of you, like the part of your learning process throughout the years, and being operations manager plus making sure our the phones are getting answered, and not just like everybody else, being a little different with the creativity. How did that bode for you during your time of being an actor and doing the other stuff?
Well, I think you've always got to be creative. It's a creative field. And if you're doing it by the numbers, you're not adding anything special, and you're just like the next person. So you do want to be creative. You do want to have add something that is going to help you stand out, as long as it's still working within the confines of what you're given, right? So being able to, take the time, pull back, think about what it is that you've got in front of you, and saying, this is a great improv skill, is saying yes to whatever stupid idea gets in your head. Just say yes, let's give it a try. We're not going to know that it doesn't work until we try it.
Tired of lugging heavy bags of water softener salt from the store? Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric now delivers premium water softener salt right to your home in returnable, reusable 20-pound containers to go green and light it up to save you from injury. Serving the north suburbs, we're your neighbors who know how hard our water is. No more running out of salt and dealing with spotty dishes and stiff laundry. Quality salt, reliable delivery, local service you can trust. Because at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, we don't just keep your home comfortable, we keep your water soft and your life easy. Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, now with water softener salt delivery. Call today or visit us online. So before I brought you on, I did do a little digging.
Okay.
And I found a YouTube channel that I believe you created, and you must have had some creativity in another video that you did that you were involved in. Okay. And I thought it was like great. Dan, can you pull up that other video with him?
I have no idea what this is.
You might not, but this is great.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Isaac. Statman, my man. What can I get you? I'll take a double shot of advice. What's the problem? I keep striking out, Isaac. I come up to the plate, and I just want to hit home runs. But I swing, and I miss. And I get nervous, and I sweat. Uh-huh. Every pitch I see, I just want to swing away at and touch all the bases.
My man, you have got to relax. Don't go swinging for home runs at every pitch you see. Ain't nothing wrong with first base. You can't get to second or third until you get to first.
Yeah.
Lay off the high strike and down and away. Just swing at the pitches you can hit. You did?
You mean I shouldn't try to hit anything out of my reach?
Or out of your league.
Thanks, Isaac.
Out of sight.
We're using baseball as a metaphor for dating, right?
Correct.
Soon we'll be making another run.
Now that was a real creative video. How did that come about?
Well, let's see. We were always looking for videos to put onto the Jumbotron. We had this big Jumbotron, and we weren't always sure what to put on it beyond the batters' faces and the pitchers' faces and the various replays, depending on how much feed we could get. So in these in-between inning breaks, if we didn't have something sold by a sponsor, we were always looking to fill. And so we had a game. It must have been a game revolving around the Love Boat. So kids, the Love Boat was a television show in the late 70s, early 80s that was known for having cheesy dialogue, funny love stories, and a lot of B-grade celebrities.
And Isaac was a character on there,
right.
And that was a fantastic portrayal of Isaac.
Yeah. By the way, that was my friend Greg Nesbitt who played Isaac in that, and then that was directed by Marty Weatherall, who was another friend. And so we just sort of put something together, something that'd be kind of fun. That would be, it had to be about 75 seconds. So we have the in and out of whatever we had 90 seconds total in the in between innings. So everything had to be confined to that. And so you try to make the video a little bit shorter. Also, it keeps the crowd's attention. It's got to be relatively quick, especially if it's going to be dialogue heavy like that one was. And so we would put that together and we shot it. We shot it in a couple of hours, and Marty is very good at editing, and so he put that together, and then we had the disc.
I noticed the location. Kind of missed that spot.
Oh yeah, that was shot at the old Midway Stadium.
Yes.
we were able to get access at our own stadium some of the time.
Yeah, that was really neat. When I pulled that up, I thought, wow, that was nostalgic, and then brings me back to Dan would probably have never known about the Love Boat. He'll have to watch some old Nickelodeon Nick at Night or something. But yeah, and then that Shakespearean acting, doing the Shakespeare, that's something that's kind of, I'm not saying it's a lost art, but there is a lost art to doing that. And that's one of your passions, I believe.
Yeah, I love Shakespeare. I think Shakespeare is, there's a lot of thoughts and ideas. I think what makes Shakespeare so fascinating to me is the way that the characters talk about themselves or about, the others around them. We could just say, and I'm so out of practice, so it'll be hard for me to make something up. It'd be very easy to just say, I'm mad, or I'm angry, or you betrayed me. But they don't. They spend, 12 lines of poetry in a roundabout way to get to, you've made me angry. And they talk about themselves, the characters talk about themselves in a way that people just don't communicate in a way today. Although the feelings, when you start to understand them, the feelings are the same. Feelings of betrayal or missing out or lost love, lost chances, or happiness, or whatever it might be. Those are all right there in the text, and they're very human. And so that's one of the things that really kind of grabs you. And I'm sort of I go big as an actor, and it's very easy and often appropriate to do so with Shakespeare. So I find a lot of pleasure in performing it. And it's also because it is 400 plus years old, there is the challenge of making things make sense for an audience today. So in the process of putting on a Shakespeare play, I really love the problem solving that has to go into it.
Yeah, because the dialogue is so intricate sometimes, and but in this day and age, people have to understand that dialogue in a sort of sense. So you almost, for lack of a better term, dumb it down a little bit in different areas to make sure that the message is across.
There's kind of a thing that we used to talk about, which is Shakespeare ear. The audience has to develop their Shakespeare ear. So in that first couple of scenes, you have to be very cognizant of the speed in which you're talking. You might indicate a bit more as an actor what it is that you're saying so that the audience helps develop their ear. And that's even for a trained audience who's been involved in Shakespeare for years and years and years. There is that adjustment of that in the first act that as a production you want to be aware of.
And that kind of brings me back to all that stuff leads back to really being able to script our people in management and script how we answer phones and how we create a narrative for a customer to feel very comfortable and positive.
Right. And helping each other here at our home base work through it, communication, right? It's very easy as a society today, we're very short in terms of how we communicate. We tend to be very direct. And that often leads to more miscommunication than not, because we're not open and able to really explain ourselves. When somebody when a CSR answering the phone really has a better understanding of why we want to schedule a certain way, they're able to follow that path. Whereas if I just said, don't ever schedule Dan on this type of job without, saying, well, Dan doesn't know this type of stuff yet. So if we do schedule him, we want to make sure that he's supported with somebody to help train him, or he is more comfortable, with this type of system. That would, and I'm pulling you, Dan, because you're sitting right over there. Then the CSR is more confident in how they're dealing with the customer.
Yeah.
And so the background in the arts, yes, but also some time and trial and error, the rehearsal period, if you will, has helped become a better, being more open at communication. More communication is better than less. And so sometimes that very just direct thing might get you the more immediate results, but it doesn't give you the long-term results.
And that's absolutely what I really love about what you do, with understanding that part of it with not just our customers, but even our internals. I mean, that's operations manager. You have to make sure that the internals are communicating with each other. And I think that all stems from understanding the delivery of communication with acting and with what you did at the Saints. That's absolutely a must. So any of you guys hearing this out there, actors make a very good customer service representatives or people management at times, because they understand communication at a high level. One of the things about that, and I saw this, and I don't know if Dan can pull up that picture from one of your acting gigs. Did I send that one over to you? I didn't. I thought I did.
Oh, I'm curious.
Might have to pull that up another time. So going from that, it's just amazing what you have done here. That's what I really think that it might have built up with all that, right? Because we're always where we're supposed to be.
Right. We are the sum of our experiences. So where you are, you're bringing everything along with you.
Yeah. And I'm sure when you first started here and did all sorts of little different functions, because we were a smaller company back then, you never thought that it would be bring you to operations officer.
I did not.
I know. Yeah, you just never know. What do you think the biggest skill set that you brought to the table to do your job at a high level and actually enjoy? Because when I see you doing this, I believe that you enjoy doing what you're doing, because I feel like that's like your wheelhouse.
I'm a pretty organized person. I do like columns and numbers and spreadsheets and things like that. Despite, you think, oh, this person's a creative, they're probably just floaty, and like most comfortable in the ether. But I think what it is probably my ability to sleuth. I'm a very good sleuth. And I think that's probably true when I was, spending a lot of time as an actor, as a Saints Entertainment, to try to find the why. Why is this thing happening the way that is? Why does the computer system want to keep turning Blaine into Minneapolis, for example? And that's just Google, so it's not a great example. But why did this customer interaction turn this way? And, able to dig in and find it. So that is something that really drives us all, right? The ability to sleuth and figuring out the why this happened this way, and did we like it, or do we want to not repeat that experience? That's the kind of thing that I hope that I've been able to bring to the table and improve everything that we're doing.
Oh my gosh! And yes, you have, and knowing my personality, I'm not the most organized person in the world. And
you are not.
You always been that person who's like, I have to admit, sometimes my nickname for you is you're a pit bull. When something's like not quite right, you get down in the nitty gritty of it and make sure that gets taken care of, which I am so appreciative.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it in that way, and that makes me think of a play that I did called Moonlight and Magnolias. And oh boy, forgive me, I can't think of the name of the person who wrote it. But it is about David Selznick and Ben Hecht and Victor Fleming, who locked themselves in Selznick's office so they could finally write the script to Gone with the Wind, because they had the rights to it. And, you know, the expectation was it was going to be a big budget clunker. But what the driving force in that play, as they're telling the story, is getting it right. And Selznick basically, I played Selznick, holds them hostage in his office for a weekend with hilariously only bananas and peanuts to eat until they get it right, until they have the makings of what is going to be a very iconic film. So getting it right.
That's exactly what that position needs, especially in operations. We got to get it right, or the business doesn't. We have more faults. And
I do promise I will never lock up the staff in an office for a weekend. We'll find a better, more friendly way to get it right.
So that's fantastic. So a lot of those skills translates to what you're doing here, and it's really greatly appreciated. Yeah. We're gonna have to cut some of that out, maybe. But so I really enjoyed what we did here. I do have a couple more things for you. You know, one of the things that is fantastic that I talked to your wife.
Okay.
And she said one of the greatest things about you, and I feel the same way, is you are exactly the person that you are. You are honest and upfront and just very direct with things to make sure that we understand where you're coming from. And that is one of your strong suits, is what we really love about you.
Thank you.
And before we go, I know one of your passions that you like, and I brought you a gift.
Oh, no.
Let me grab this here. Are some dinosaur signs.
Ah!
Very colorful, such as yourself.
Dinosaurs are pretty cool. Dinosaurs are cool, everybody. That's awesome. Oh, my God. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll give you the package so you don't dirty them up on your way
All right.
home. But I really appreciate all this, getting to know you even on a deeper level.
Well, thank you.
Would love to have you back, and
I would love to be back.
we'll find something else to talk about. But that whole experience with the acting and where it brought you today, very interesting. And I'm just so grateful and blessed to have you in part of my life, actually. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Twin City Tales. Again, thank you, Joe, Dan behind the camera, Marino Wong. And we'll catch you on the next Twin City Tales.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote